Thank you so much for coming on this webinar. We're really excited. So today we're actually talking about how to prepare your child for dynamic success in education, in employment, and in enterprise. And it's just exciting. I started part one last week. It was very different for all of you who were here. It was the PowerPoint. You didn't see me, and obviously I know the PowerPoint didn't move, so I do apologize for that. If it's the first time you're coming on board, like we say, we're really excited about today. We're excited a number of webinars helping parents to actually help their children to excel in education, in employment, and enterprise. I'm very, very passionate about it. And myself, if it's the first time you're coming on, I'm Donya Na. Just to double check, actually, can you just do a Y if you can hear me as a yes? Type in your chat box if you see your chat box on the right hand side, and I will just type in and double check. So if you can just on my mic, so just double checking if you can hear me. So I'm just checking the polls. Yes, okay, great. So Dami can hear me. Okay, and Shante can hear me. Can everybody else hear me? Yep, the webinar is on tonight. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for coming on board. It's going to be really fun. I'm excited because I've got Shante here and I've got Dami, and I'll be introducing them in a minute. And they are, as we said when we actually sent out the communication, they've got first class honors, and they're graduates. Well, they're professionals now, not not just graduates. And we've worked with Shante and Dami in throughout our ACES program, and we're really excited because of the work that we've actually done with them. We're setting up a what's called the SYF Connect Dynamic Future Leaders Network, where we are helping to actually support young people, help to support parents as well, so that their children can get the highest top grades, can also get into the world of work in the area that they are interested in. So I'm really excited about talking about the network today, and I'm really excited about talking about the work that we've done with Dami and Shante and getting them to share with the parents, to share with all of us what kind of things they did to get them to where they're really, really proud of them. Just briefly, if it's the first time you're coming on board, I'm Donya Na, and I'm the founder of ACES Youth Project. Like I said, I set up various networks to actually help parents to help their children to excel. It's something I'm passionate about. I've had over 20 years experience in education, in youth ministry. I've worked with the social services in the education department, so I understand the importance of well-being. So I do have a strong emphasis on that. I've taught, so I have a strong emphasis on education as well. I've worked in the career young people, getting them back into employment. So I've worked from primary, secondary, worked with looking at well-being, and worked at employment. So I understand how important it is for parents to get it right, to start right, to even start really early from primary to help their children to prepare and think about their future, but to have a lot of fun on the way. I think it's so important to have fun. So and yeah, and so I go into schools in 20 of the 32 London boroughs. We provide different services through ACES. We've got in for young people. We've got this SYF is all kind of career and training program that we have, and we have a strong emphasis, like I said, on in terms of education, helping everyone to excel. And we now what we've done is we've done so much work with schools, have achieved over 90% consistent success rate, and now we've actually decided to take the program out to schools because we're only a group of students, and work with parents to help parents to get their children into the right school, to get the right employment guidance, to connect them with professionals. So we are really excited about our Dynamic Future Leaders Network. So now that is me, Donyana, and I would like to introduce you to Dami. So Dami, if you could just tell us a bit about yourself, what you do now, and just when you first actually started to work with us.
Hi guys, my name is Dami, and currently I am in financial consulting. I joined ACES when I was in year 10, so that's probably like, I would say 8, 9 years ago. And yeah, what initially joining, it was more of a, close communication, having ACES come into my school. We had a team of guys who would basically sit with a group of I'd say about 6 or 7. And since then on, I've always kept communication with Donya, kept communication with the team. And, it's always been about just building yourself as a person, even if it's education, career, and as Donya said, even your well-being as well.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you, Dami. And now I'll introduce Shante. So, Shante, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do now, and how you first came in communication with what we do in terms of our organization.
Hi, my name's Shante. I'm currently working as a finance analyst. I first got involved with ACES back in 2011 when I was nominated to attend the Diamond Ball Awards, and that was the first time I was associated with ACES. Since then, I've sort of worked closely with Donya. I've helped in schools, and I've been to lots of their events for students and parents and teachers, and I've had quite a wide range of experiences with ACES, sort of being on behind the scenes and sort of at events and stuff. So yeah, it's been really, really great.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Shante. Thanks for that. So Dami and Shante have introduced themselves and how we actually first started working together, or actually doing some stuff together. Now, really, as I've said to you before, if you're on part one of the programs, when we do these webinars, what I'm hoping to do and hoping to achieve is that you go away with some nuggets, some strategies, some formulas, some things that you can implement that will be useful, and some changes that you can make. I hope that when you go away and you have any questions, you can feel comfortable enough to email to or connect with me to try and get your questions answers, or even like we're talking about the network, to be a part of the network so you can get your question answered. So we hope you'll get something from this, and we hope, as always, in terms of our structure, we give information. We'll tell you about in terms of an offer to join our dynamic network, and then we will also round up with some other tips and strategies as well. So that's kind of the structure for today's session. So without further ado, then Shante and Dami, sorry, we lost your video. Yeah. Shante and Dami, I'll start off with you, Shante. In terms of motivation, in terms of mindset, what things would you say helped you to have to develop a positive mindset towards work, to develop independent learning?
I'd say I've always been quite self-motivated in the fact that I always want to do the best for myself, and I don't like knowing that I've not worked my absolute hardest, because I sort of am quite strict with myself, even when it comes to revision. Like I'll stick to a strict sort of timetable, things like that. So I've always been very motivated to just do well for myself and just be proud of myself and proud of the work that I've done, and just know that I've done everything that I could possibly do. So I think a lot of it is not wanting to sort of let myself down, and I think sort of just created my own motivation in that respect. But I've also had like a lot of people around me who have also been really motivated, and like we work sort of motivating each other as well. And it's nice to be in an environment where you're around motivated people, because they sort of, you can feed off their energy, and if everyone's sort of as motivated as each other, it's just a good environment to be in. And yeah, so having good people, a lot of it is internal, but having motivated people around you as well is just really, really great, quintessential.
Okay, fabulous. So you think then the for parents who are listening in, that it's important for them to have the right networks or the right groups for their children, that the group that you're in can actually make a significant difference to the achievement that you have.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, obviously, you sort of are responsible for how you work, but it's natural to sort of feed off people around you. And so, whether you sort of notice it or not, if you are around motivated people, then you will probably sort of feel like you feel the buzz and you want to sort of do really, really sort of well and just be proud of yourself and proud of how much you've worked. Yeah.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, because obviously in ACES and S5 Connect, we've always again trying to maintain a strong positive mindset network, and obviously you've just mentioned that you thought that was beneficial, and even for yourself personally, that's really great. Also then, Shantae, whilst I'm speaking to you, can you just share some strategies that your parents implemented to help you along the way?
Yeah, so we sort of in my house, we've got a study, which is like this really small room with a computer desk and the computer, and it's sort of the study area. So even if someone's on the computer, if I say to my parents, "Oh, I'd like to revise at 6 o'clock, please," if that's like all right, then my dad will 100% always like, be out of the room by 5 to 6, and it's just nice to know that there's somewhere that you can go that's sort of quiet. And like, if I tell my parents, "Oh, I'm going to be revising," they'll sort of be downstairs, or no one will sort of disturb me if I'm in the study room until I sort of come back out and come back into the world. But yeah, it's just nice that and like, for instance, my dad, he's like really good at maths, and I did maths, or part of my degree was maths as well. So I always know that I could go to him and ask for like any help that I needed, and he'd always be completely happy to explain to me, work things out with me. And yeah, so I never felt sort of bad about asking, or asking if I could have the study room, because they were just so understanding, and they just knew that, yeah, Shantae wants to revise, so that's the priority. Like, if I want to watch TV, I can watch it downstairs, because the kids need this room to study. So yeah, it's just really sort of facilitating revision time and study time.
Okay, great, Shantae. Thanks for that. And so you did well in your GCSEs, and you did well in your A levels, and obviously doing well in your GCSEs, you commended and nominated for an award at one of our award ceremonies.
Yeah.
Can you just tell us about the grades that you got at GCSEs, what you went on to get an A levels, and what you think helped you to actually achieve those grades as well? I mean, you probably have touched on it already, but I just thought I'd
Yeah, it's
just
fine.
specifically about the grades.
GCSEs, that seems like a long time ago now, but I got 7 A stars and 5 A's, I think, at GCSE. And A level, I did chemistry, maths, and French, and got AAB in my A levels. What contributed to that was the school. Definitely, sort of, they did push us a lot at school. As I mentioned before, I've always been quite motivated to do well for myself, and I'll feel guilty if I don't put 100% in, because come exam time, I want to walk out of the exam thinking there was physically nothing more that I could have done. Because I think it's an awful feeling if you sort of do an exam and you might, I don't know, struggle a bit, but it's because you could have done more revision. So a lot of it is me wanting to just do the best of myself. But I did have a lot of support and sort of a lot of help from, like I said, I think I mentioned already, like, my dad is really good at maths, and I used to hound him essentially with all of the questions that I had. But he, because we're quite maths geeks, we sort of enjoy doing, like, working through things together, and just made it really simple, and like really explained things really well to me. And like, my mum would, because she's like more of on the English side, I would go to her with like a piece of coursework that an English piece of coursework that I'd written, and she'd sort of read it through with me, and we'd like sort of just work on, like, she'd tell me how to improve and things like that, and just sort of be generally really supportive. But constructive criticism is always a good thing as well. So yeah, they just offered just a really, really helpful.
Okay, fabulous. So you talk about, and that means, sorry, I'm coming to you actually. You just asked question, Charlotte. You talk about constructive criticisms, for example. Did you, if you failed an exam or anything like that, because we're looking at dynamic future leaders, how we can develop them, the strategies and ideas that we can give parents, and certainly we can share as a network, as a group. But if you failed an exam or didn't do so well in your exam, what was the response of your parents, and how did that make you feel?
I think if I ever didn't do so great, they would just firstly ask, did you do the best that you could, and did you know that you'd done as much revision as you could? And for me, I wouldn't let the answer be no. So I would have always done as much as I could. So they were always sort of very supportive, because not all exams are going to be, sometimes you just get a really horrible, tough exam, but they didn't ever sort of put me down and make me feel really bad for not getting an A star in an exam. So I knew that they wouldn't be disappointed or upset or anything, because they knew that I tried my best. And I feel like if I maybe had tried my best and then still didn't get an amazing mark, but then they sort of made me feel bad for not getting an amazing mark, I feel like that could sort of, well, make you think, well, I did do my best, but I still didn't get amazing, but I'm still going to be put down for it. So why bother? So I think there's a thing that, so long as if you tried your best, and if you always, that's because that's the best you can do, is your best. And I think, yes, the fact that they didn't sort of ever make me feel really bad for not doing amazing was also influential in me carrying on with the same work ethic, I think, that then translated into the results that I did end up getting in the end.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for sharing that, actually, because that's some of the, when we actually talk to parents and we do like action planning with them, we really emphasize the importance of what you say to your children actually motivate them or demotivate them. So obviously the positive response from your parents help assisted as well. So that's great.
Yeah,
okay, so over to you, Dami. Sorry, I like got carried away talking to John there. So over to you then, Dami. So Dami, we met when you know you were in, yeah, we were doing some programs in your school. We met when you were in year 9. And what between you and say year 11, when you did your exams, what kind of structures did you have to put in place, and how did ACES help you in terms of the process of getting to where you needed to get to in year 11?
In terms of structures to put in place, I'd say one of the key things for me was definitely time management and organization. So I feel like when you're in year 9, you're still doing quite a lot of subjects, and you know, especially up until GCSE, you're kind of doing the whole across all boards, all subjects. So it's quite key to not just time yourself accordingly, but also identify which areas that you're weak at. So as Shantae said, she's quite strong at maths, and she's got people at home who can help her with maths as well as English. So there might have been other areas where she was weaker at, so she had to spend some more time on that. And it's very important to be able to sit down and identify those areas yourself and be able to say, okay, you know what, given that I'm good at maths and I pick things up quite quickly, I'm going to spend 20% of my time on that. Given that geography is a bit more complicated for me, it takes me a while, I'm going to spend 30% or 35% of my time on that. And I feel like, you know, at a young age, you kind of think, let me just even it out, spend equal time on each one and everything will be fine. But, and generally speaking, that isn't always the case, because the things that you're stronger at, the things that you enjoy more, you will naturally spend more time on that. So to be able to identify those areas and tackle those areas was quite important for me. In terms of where ACES fits into that, I think one of the things ACES did for me and did quite well was just putting things in perspective and just allowing me to create some, you know, reasonable goals. So I think in year 9/year 10, a lot of people had a good idea of what you do at university and what the university life is like, but it's not quite the same as actually going to a university campus and having people who are at university speak to you and being able to ask them questions, which is what ACES provided. So we actually got to go to a university when I was in year 10, I believe. And it was, it was quite an inspirational moment for me because, it was a position that I wanted to be in a couple of years, and be given that opportunity to actually go and speak to these people who are where I want to be in 3 or 4 years was quite nice. And, you come back home, you kind of say, okay, look, I can actually be here, but these are the things I need to do. So for me, in my day to day, it kind of helped me in the sense that when I was working, when I kind of lost motivation, I knew where the end goal was, and it just kept me motivated at all times.
Okay, and thanks for sharing that, Dami. And because that was what I was talking a lot about with parents last week. If you're on the webinar last week, I said a lot. Start from the end. It's so important when your children are in school, and if that's the only thing that they see, and you're saying, go and get this, prepare for this exam so you can go to university and go to get a job. For a lot of children, it means something to you as an adult because you've been there, but for a lot of children it doesn't mean anything. You actually really need to take them to the universities, and you need to take them to receive business. And again, that's why I'm really excited about the network that we have, because obviously you've got people like Shante and Dami who can share some ideas, but we have those structures in place to go on to university visits, to go into employment, in terms of employment and employers. Now, it's important as well, actually, to point out, if you're a parent of a child who's really young, say for example, then year 2, year 3, year 4, this is still really important for you, because I think that you can still get them to meet professionals. You can still take them on school visits. If plus is really good, if you can get them to go and see the school that they want to go to, because obviously it makes a life a lot easier. Now, I kind of link in with that, Dami. It was the fact that you then, once you finished school, tell us in terms of that, making you realize that you can actually achieve your fullest potential, what it was like meeting professionals and professionals you met, and what it was like liaising with those people as well. So you talked about university and the impact that had. How about about the professional meetings and guidance?
So I think one of the key things for me was, and I think you find this around, a lot of kids my age when I was about maybe 17, 18, and it was just being able to find someone that you could identify with. So someone in the professional space that you can actually identify with and say, actually, you know what, we came from similar backgrounds, we've gone through similar experiences, and you've been able to get to the position you are today. And if you're able to do that, then I'm able to do that. And what I need to do is listen to you and work hard. And the more exposure, as Donya said, starting from the end, the more exposure you can give to your child, and the more experiences they have of seeing people in those positions, the more realistic it becomes. So it's like, this thing that used to be an idea is actually a lot more tangible now, because I've seen 5 or 10 people in that same position, and they're from similar backgrounds as me. So I know all I need to do to get there is work hard. And again, that was one of the gaps that ACES filled for me. And the way I like to explain it is, when I was in university, everyone was like, yeah, I want to get a graduate job and I want to work in this industry or that industry. But generally speaking, when you just started university, those industries are black box. You don't really have a good idea of what the day-to-day role looks like. And, if you ask any student now what profession they want to go into, if they're in first year or second year, ask them what day-to-day looks like. They have no clue. They know what role they want to go into, but they don't know what the day-to-day looks like. And that was the gap that ACES filled for me. So I actually met a guy called Aurora at a RBS who was in banking. And he actually took time out of his day during a working day to actually sit down with me and explain to me what his role looks like and the benefits of his role and the skills that he needed to actually get the role and where he was going, going forward. And that was a real, I'd say that was like a key moment for me. It was like a turning point for me, because it was like, what, this is someone that's come from a similar position as I have. These are the things that he did to get to where he is, and these are the skills that he's gaining from this position. And you take that on board. You go back to university. You work hard. You kind of, at each point when you meet these different people, it's like motivation, and it just keeps to grow in you, and it kind of gives you that target, and this is where I want to go. These are the skills I need to get there, and this is what I need to do going forward. And there was a lot of people like that. We also met Caroline Marsh as well, and she kind of spoke about how she came out to the position that she got to, and the skills that she needed to get to that position as well. And one of the key things that Donya's always said to me is, I remember there was a study that Donya mentioned to me, in my first university, and she said, you had about 10 kids at Harvard University, and I would say about 5 of them were actually setting their targets of where they wanted to be in 5 years, where they wanted to be in 10 years, where they wanted to be in 15. And the others were just studying. And you found that the ones that actually set targets and consistently, amended those targets in accordance to what they were doing were the ones that actually went to the top companies, that went to management level and executive level. And that was simply because they were setting targets and they knew what they had to do to get there. And the more time you spend on doing things like that, the more focused you become. And it's like it's like you have like a focused attack on your education. So rather than just studying an economics degree for the sake of studying it, you're studying an economics degree with a purpose. You know exactly what you want to say when you get to an interview stage, and you know where it's going to take you. I think that was the most important thing for me, is like meeting these people allows you to create those targets and allows you to identify how you execute on those targets.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Dami, and really, really, talking about obviously the benefits again from meeting the professionals, meeting Caroline, who was on the Secret Millionaire. If Caroline's listening, she must be really pleased to know that she's actually impacted your lives, because sometimes when young people meet professionals and meet celebrities or high achievers, it may not seem immediate that they are making a significant impact, but to know that they've made, they said something to you, or motivated you in some way, that is just absolutely brilliant. You've touched on something. I'm going to ask Shantae about this as well, because I know from speaking to both of you that this is key. We do, like you've said, when you've done mentoring with us, we've actually an action plan and setting a goal, and how important that is. Now, you've touched on it obviously in terms of getting the job, senior management, thinking about senior management and position stuff. If you could just give us like maybe 3 kind of action plans and things you put in place to get your highest grades, or to achieve your first class degree, or even to get the job, because I know you've got the job of your dreams, and you went into the positions that you wanted to get into, and then you've now adapted, you were saying, for another position. So tell us like maybe about 3 things that you put in action plan from what we had discussed, that you put in place to get you to where you are now, you think.
So I'll say one of the key things was just again, it's one of my things is always about a focused attack. So one key thing was definitely getting the right knowledge in terms of, okay, this is the position that I want to get to. What exactly do I need to do to get to that position? Because it's a lot more important than just revising for 24 hours in a day and just studying and remembering exams. There's a specific way, and it differs from person to person, depending on how well, and depending on your revision techniques and your studying techniques and what works for you. But it was just a case of me actually taking a step back and understanding what exactly do I need to do to hit that target. So in terms of my degree, one of the key things that worked for me was, just keeping a close relationship with my tutors. So identifying the most useful tutors and the guys that, were willing to go the extra mile, and, were willing to spend an hour and a half on you on a particular topic or on your essay and stuff like that. And I developed strong relationship with those tutors, so much so that, when it was like 10 days before an exam and I was going through past papers, if there was a question that I was completely struggling on and the answers weren't clear enough, I would just send them an email like at 7 p.m. at night and say, look, I'm trying to answer this question. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. And they would respond within 10 minutes saying, outline the whole question properly for me. And that wouldn't have been the case if I didn't develop those strong relationships. And this was just me identifying that, these are the kind of people that are going to help me going forward. And this is what I need to do to get where I want to go. Another thing for me was time management. So again, I think I touched on this briefly before, is just identifying the areas which I was weak at. So there was a couple of modules where I felt like I needed to spend a lot more time on those than others. So I'm generally quite good at stats. So, I was like, you know what, stats generally I pick up quite quickly. When it goes to doing the past papers, the scores are generally quite good. So I'm not gonna overkill on this one. I'm actually gonna spend more time on, the more written modules, like, the history of economics. And that was really key for me, because at the end of the day, when I got my results seemed, they balance out quite well. So it's like, rather than having like an 80 in one module and then having like a 55 in another module, it was like 70 across board, and it balanced out really well, which looks really good, because it shows that, you're very organized and you're very focused.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much for that, Dami. Thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate it. Your kind of 3-pronged attack and the things that you thought was important in terms of focus, time management, having that kind. How about yourself, Shante? To get all those A stars and A's that you've mentioned, and to do so well in your A levels as well. What kind of some of the things, the goals or the key things you would say, okay, parents, if you want your children to be in that position, these are the things that you should be doing with them?
I think a lot of it for me personally was learning how I revised, if that makes sense. So I think the best revision I ever did was, I think I figured out my stride a bit later, but sort of by my last year of uni was when I'd sort of done the best revision that I had ever done, and that sort of worked really well for me. But I think had I if I'd stuck to sort of that method that I sort of figured out in third year, if I'd managed to learn that before, it might have helped me sort of be a bit more regimented with my revision. So sort of really helping kids to learn how best they revise, because not everyone can revise in the same way. No two people are the same. Like, it's not a one size fits all. So even if one child is saying, yeah, I do 2 hours in a row and then like do that 4 times a day, that may be all well and good for one student, but like, I know I can't work like that. And if I do, I would just, for the last hour or for the last half an hour of that 2 hour stint, I'd just be staring sort of at the wall. So it's really about learning how best to utilize or learning how you revise. And I think that really, really sort of helps me. I sort of wish I'd learned that earlier. And yeah, secondly, like what I was just nodding furiously with what Dami was saying before, like identifying your weaknesses. And personally, one thing I had to fight against is sort of revising the things that you're good at, because it makes you feel good, but at the end of the day, that's not gonna help you with the ones that you struggle on, because there's a tendency to sort of go, oh, okay, I'll just run over this one more time, because you can do it and you'll get through all the questions and it will make you feel really great. But I sort of had to force myself to be like, okay, I know I can do like differential equations or whatever it is. Let me my energy is better focused elsewhere. So I think so sort of helping your kids maybe identify what that they know they're good at already, or if you can see what they're good at and you can still see they're spending a lot of time on that, maybe suggest, how do you feel about such and such, and suggest maybe they try and focus the revision on the areas that they're maybe struggling on a bit more. And I think that is sort of really crucial, because it's sort of, you've got to really plow through. Sometimes you just feel like you're walking through like quicksand and you're just reading, you're just not understanding, but it does come, and it's just, you've just got to persevere really. And I think just learning perseverance, and sort of if you don't understand something, and it's not that like you will never understand it ever again. Revision does actually, like, it is a wonderful tool that I remember when I was younger, I always used to think, oh, do I really have to revise? Like, I was so tired. But when you start from a place of a bit sort of confusion, you do end up sort of having your eureka moment when you finally understand it, and then it feels really great. So I think it's just sort of encouraging like kids to realize that, okay, you might not understand it now, but you will understand it if you just sort of put the work in, and just power through, keep going, basically.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Shante. And You know, some of the things to pick up on that you've mentioned in terms of the every child is different as well. You know, you touched on that,
Yeah.
and understanding your kind of learning style, thing that a sometimes a big mistake is made. And obviously, and you know, parents need to ensure they understand that they can help their children with that, because unfortunately in school, teacher is teaching 30, 32 students, and so they're naturally going to use mainly auditory talking at the students, and not every child is like that. Some children, they need visual to see visual things visually. Some might be kinesthetic, they need, and you know, do experiments and things like that. So parents have to understand how to help their children, help to identify that learning style. And it's great that you've actually still achieved, even though, like you said, you really really discovered yourself at the end, at the end of university. But certainly that's something that we encourage along the way. And when we do the action planning, we actually go through and get parents to understand how their children are, because sometimes you find you've got a brother. Do you find that your parents have ever compared you? Parents do that comparison thing, but you're all very different.
I wouldn't say they compare us, because me and my brother are just sort of completely different in the subjects that we like. Like, I'm very much I don't sort of deal with words, I deal with numbers, but sort of my brother's the opposite. So we're never really sort of compared. But I was, as you were mentioning about the different styles of revision, I was thinking of the same thing. Like, me and my brother are so different in the way that we study, but I would never sort of force him to be like, oh no, this is the way that like I revise and this is so great. And he wouldn't sort of do that to me either, because we've got very different sort of temperaments, and just the way that we work is just fundamentally different. But the way I works for me, the way he works for him. So it's sort of just finding that, and sort of my parents are aware of the different ways in which we work, and they'll just work around us both, really, just because they know that we're different. And they don't try and sort of sit us both down and be like, right, you're going to do this many hours of sort of reading past papers and doing past papers. Sort of they'll let us sort of learn how we like to revise, and then just sort of guide us through that, I'd say. Yeah.
That's fab, Shante, and thanks for sharing that. I mean, what's excited about talking to you and Dami is that you come into schools, you come on our programs, you give up your time to come in and talk to young people. That is really amazing, because obviously that is something that you experienced yourself when you came to the awards dinner that we had, the ACES Achievement Awards dinner that we used to do, and we're instituting again and putting back in place, where we, on a yearly basis, we actually meet up and give students awards. How did that help you to work that you've actually put in? How did that actually benefit you? What kind of people did you meet at that event, and did that shape your kind of thinking in terms of giving back as well? Because you do a lot of giving back with us. You come and you're part of our networks, and I just think you guys are just phenomenal. So Shante, I'll ask you again, and then I'll go to Dami.
Okay. The dinner, I think I was at the Diamond Ball Awards ceremony. That was the one that I was at, and it was such a good environment, because it was the first sort of thing that I'd ever been to in that sort of environment, because it was approached by a teacher in my school who said, we've nominated you, would you like to go? And I was like, yeah, of course. And like, I'm so glad that I did, because I'd never sort of been in a situation or at any sort of event where the sole purpose was to celebrate the achievements of young people. Like, I had never been to anywhere sort of like that before. And it was like an amazing event, because you could really just sort of feel how proud everyone was in the room. And it was just really nice to see like people being celebrated. And so there was that aspect. And then there were lots of professionals there as well. And I think at the time I must have been in year 10 or thereabouts, I think, year 10 or 11, year 11. And it was just, yeah, so good to see, because that was when we were transitioning to A level, and hearing, as Dami said, like speaking to the professionals. I remember meeting Tim Campbell, the Apprentice winner, and I was literally struck by his energy. Like, it was just so great. Like, he was so motivated. Like, I felt he was one of the people you could actually sort of feel his motivation, like when you were around him, and you sort of you bounce off that, and like it's hard not to absorb some of that. And just hearing the way he spoke was just so passionate, and it was really, because it was just really inspirational. And I feel like that energy and that drive that he had, like, would have rubbed off on a lot of people, including myself, but a lot of students who were there as well. And it was just a really sort of great environment to be in. It was really positive. Everyone was, yeah, like I said, just so proud of their achievements, and with every right, everyone should have been so proud of their achievements. And it was just nice to be in that sort of environment where people were uplifted, because it's not all the time that you hear about students being positively praising young people. And so it was just really nice, really refreshing, and definitely took a lot away from it.
That is great. Thank you very much for that, Shante, because again, I think that was the year when you went to the awards. And what we do is we do have a yearly event. It's like an Oscar style, put out the red carpets for the young people, because like Shante said, not enough is done to celebrate the achievements of young people. And again, it might not be done in school, and it might not be done in and there might not be other places that it's been done. And we hear a lot of negativity on the news about what's not been achieved and what young people have done, but to actually just celebrate them for the achievements. So what we do is we celebrate academic achievement, but we also celebrate contribution to society, and we just recognize every little step. And volunteering, we recognize a child has made, because like we said last week on the webinar, sometimes it's about, okay, what's the next step? You're going to do A levels, okay, you're going to go and do your degree, but it's like, actually recognize the fact that I've worked hard here and I've achieved this. And it was nice, I think, with the networks and everything that we've done to bring achievers together, so that they can see that it's not a negative thing to want to achieve, and actually want to want to achieve and get better. So I think, yes, I was saying that year, I think that was the year the CEO of the Royal Albert Hall came. Of the West Indies was actually there, of Jamaica was actually there that year as well. I can't recall if it's the year after that the chief editor of The Voice was there. And like you say, Caroline Marsh, and then Lieutenant Bryce, he was the first black commander of a naval ship, was actually there. So it was really exciting for us as well, Shante, to actually have you all in that environment. And we need to try and ensure that we offer that kind of support and excitement and out of this world experience for children and young people. So that was great. Thanks for sharing that with me. Now, Dami, I'm going to come over to you, and I'm going to ask you about I wanted to really touch on for you, and also I'll go back to Shanti on this. The fact you mind talking a bit about your starting point. So you passed your degree. You got first class degree, obviously, and like we said, you're in the dream job and jumping from dream jobs to dream jobs. You got that experience, but was that your kind of starting point in terms of, I'm all for grammar schools. I'm all for independent schools. I think that is that parent choice to send their children to whichever school that they want to, and I can see the benefits of doing that. Your starting point. Did you start from a grammar school?
No, definitely not. So my starting point, I would say when I was probably in year 9, I had no idea what I wanted to do in terms of, what career I wanted to go into, even in terms of your favorite subjects. I didn't think I even had a favorite subject. Like, I was aware of things that I was good at, but I definitely wasn't engrossed by those subjects. So yeah, again, it was only until probably year 10, year 11 where I started to put things in perspective. Like, hey, what are you good at? What do you enjoy? What sort of role do you see yourself in? And then, like you said, starting from the end at that point, if this is the way you want to go in, what do you need to do to get to that role? What skills do you need and things like that. But yeah, to go back to Daniel's original point, I definitely wasn't in the grammar school, and I don't think, in fact, I'm 100% sure it shouldn't inhibit you. So if parents feel like their children aren't in the right schools, at the end of the day, it's down to the child, it's down to the environment, and it's down to the support network and the support system around them as well.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Tommy, because that's the kind of point that I wanted to make, that wherever a child is, a parent must realize that they need to ensure that they have the right support and that they are supporting their children along the way. And tell me about your mum's involvement in your life in terms of your study. How did she kind of assist in terms of your mindset, and what kind of things was done to make you realize, actually, I can be a leader. I'm here, a comprehensive school boy, and I'm amongst maybe people who have gone to independent school, but I have the right to be here and I can be a leader in this industry. What did that for you?
I mean, to be honest, it was really simple. It was just having those conversations and just being available to have those conversations. That's what it was. I mean, she's not like she's in the health industry, so she's a nurse, she's a midwife, and so naturally, I don't expect her to have a lot of knowledge around finance and things like that. But it definitely didn't stop her from having those conversations and having that genuine interest and just understanding what the reasoning behind going into that industry was, and the skills that I had, and whether those skills were tailored toward that industry, and just giving just general life tips, like stay close to people who have similar ambitions, because there'll be things that you'll be able to learn from them, and there'll be things they'll be able to learn from you, and you're just able to sponge off each other. Because like you said, going to university, if you have people like-minded individuals around you, you build that support system. So even just creating support systems outside of your family, outside of your social friends, just in university as well, is really good. Just having her have those conversations with me and just being able to participate in those conversations, I think was good enough. And for me, that works. For some children, you need to be a lot more active in their life. You just making sure that they are maintaining a certain level of grades, and making sure that they are focused, making sure they have got targets. And even if it's just a case of having a regular chat every month, just saying, what are your targets? How have your targets changed? What kind of roles are you interested in? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Even if it's just going on Google, like, the power of the internet is amazing. Like, just finding out, the different websites that do discuss roles, because there are a lot of websites that discuss student roles and things like that. And I can almost guarantee that any child, if you give them those websites and provide them those, they will be grateful for that, and it will just motivate them more to go and pursue those careers.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you very much for that, Dami. So it's nice that you're discussing the impact of your mum's contribution in your life. I think that's really important, and so no, that's great. Thank you for that. So in terms of you getting you doing so well, you excelling, you getting to the point where, did you just study? Was that all that you did in your life? I mean, all the way from GCSE, did you just put your head down and not do anything else? In fact, I mean, I rephrase that question. Now that you're in the world of work, what kind of things are you happy that you did, that you find that help you in the position that you're in outside of
Uh,
academic?
I would say definitely networking from a young age and just developing my soft skills was a really key thing. So my day-to-day role is, dealing with a lot of clients and going off-site, going client site to basically have lots of meetings with project managers and business analysts and front office guys as well. And a lot of that really boils down to your soft skills. Like, a lot of the time, yes, you can come with this 10-page PDF and things like that, but if you're not able to explain technical things in layman's terms, it makes it very difficult, especially in meetings and over conference calls and things like that. So developing my soft skills, generally being a people's person, those were key things, because I think the ability to meet people from all different walks of life and still be able to communicate with them as you would your friends is very important. And in today's world, communication is key. Like, people communicate over the web, people communicate over platforms like this, people communicate, you can speak to someone in San Francisco quite easily, and it wasn't like that 30, 40 years ago. And it's quite important to be able to develop those networking skills. I would also say time management. So while I was in university, I had my own social enterprise. I also had a Forex society as well. And that was, I'd say, from second year to third year, right way through to the end, even during exams. So being able to manage my time with those societies as well as my studying was quite important, which kind of, it made you realize how much hours you have in the day. And it's quite important now as well, because, one of the things that they stress in the workplace is having a very good work-life balance, because you don't want to burn out. And I believe that, because I had that time management quite early on, coming into the workplace, having so much work to do, having so many clients that you have to balance, it wasn't a big shock to me, because I was quite used to having a lot of things on my plate and being able to organize myself accordingly.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Dami, for sharing that. And I'm going to go over to you, Shante, because for us, the stuff that we're doing, we believe that being a dynamic future leader isn't just about getting great grades. It's about giving back to society. It's being able to communicate. It's being able to network. It's being able to to use your different skills and talents, and just really to enjoy life, but also to stand out. And Shante, I know that you've done quite a couple of things that I think, wow, you in terms of, you studied at a French university for a year, and in terms of you do a lot of different things in terms of your hobbies. So in terms of getting the best results, the results that you said, did you shut down everything in your life? What other things did you do in life, and how do you think those things helped you to actually achieve your grades?
I'm just going to echo a lot of what Dami said, to be honest. But so, like you said, I've always been like quite into my extracurricular activities. Like I've been sort of dancing since I was about 6 years old, and it's the one thing that I've sort of done consistently and continually. I still do dance when I get the chance, and it's sort of, I think it sort of kept me sort of sane. Like it prevents, because it is easy to sort of just lose yourself in revision and work, and obviously you do have to dedicate a lot of time to your revision, but at the same time you do need sort of an outlet. And I think just for your own sort of personal well-being, like it's good to have, like I knew that if I had dancing at, I don't know, 6 o'clock or like 7 o'clock, I'd come home, I could do a solid sort of stint of revision, and then I knew that it's sort of motivating, because oh, okay, but I've got dancing in at 7, so I want to work really, really hard for this hour and a half, so that then I can go and enjoy and have a really nice sort of time at dancing, and know that I have worked hard, but this is sort of my reward. So it's a little sort of reward for yourself, just something that keeps you going and keeps you active as well, I guess. And so yeah, and even things like in that, there's ways of sort of giving back as well. So I've sort of taught a few classes and things like that, and it's just really nice because, again, like what Dami said, it does teach you time management, because I think even in year 11 I was dancing like twice a week, but it forces you to be sort of really strict with your time, and it's just a really good skill to have. That time management is never a bad skill. Like you're always going to need to have good time management. So yeah, I think it's something that has been instilled in me, and I think it's made me quite driven as well, because as a hobby, it is a hobby, but dancing also is very demanding, and you do need to be driven, and that's sort of carried over into sort of the way that I work as well. So yeah, I think that was really, really helpful. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I think that it's I just think you guys are just phenomenal, and you're like two of maybe about 2,000 or so. And I think it's good saying, because I get online and I do Facebook Live and I do these webinars, and I say to parents, do different things. Yes, let your 6-year-old dance, let them enjoy themselves, go out and do the networking. And I think I do it with my children, but I think they think I'm making it up. But when they hear you guys talk about your being super high achievers and just being so grounded and having such positive mindset and are doing all the things that you do, I think it becomes a lot more real to people and excited. Somebody actually said, okay, they wanted to see what this webinar was about, and this is what makes me excited, because I want parents to realize that their children can achieve excellent grades. They can be well rounded, they can be well mannered, they can have the soft skills, and actually doing the hobbies do give them that opportunity to get the soft skills. And what I'm really excited about, and I'm listening to both of you talk about time management and in place and thinking about these things, and I'm thinking actually I would love to really have you guys on our action planning sessions that we have. I know you've come into schools. No, Dami, you've come and done presentation at different schools for us, handing out awards. Shanta, I remember you came in with Chantel, who did a MA in motorsports, and you came in with the graduate recruitment officer from and came in and given some talks in different schools as well. And I think that's really amazing. And so at this point, everyone, just as we're going to actually be rounding off, I just wanted to just say that we wanted to give you the opportunity to be a part of our SYF Connect network, which is the education and training section of what we do in ACES, a dynamic network where we can help to support children, young people from wherever they are in primary school up to them getting their dream job. And Dami and Shante have shown that you can actually really achieve those grades, have fun, and get to your dream job. It is possible, and they have shown that it's possible. And what we're doing in that network that we're having, where we are kind of raising dynamic future leaders, is getting Pete Shante to come and talk to your students, talk to your children. We're meeting up on a quarterly basis. Your children will get to see different professionals, some at different events. They may see different celebrities. They may go to different places. So for example, I know I know Chantal was at the JP Morgan, so we had a JP Morgan event, and we went to JP Morgan, and still being mentored by people at JP Morgan. We've taken young people to BBC. I know Dami was one of the students that came along with us when we went to Parliament. So when we went to actually visit Parliament, we've had students go to BT. That was even year 7 students, quite young students, going to BT. And in this network, our aim, so why I do this is because I know that it still takes a village to raise a child, and sometimes it's just lonely by yourself, and sometimes parents are wondering, how do I do this? They're not actually get from A to Z, so to speak. And by having a network, by having groups of people who can actually support you, can guide you, people who have done it before, like Dami said, he had Aura from RBS talk to him about employment. He went to Brunel University, and he then in year 9, so he was able to see what it was like at university. So every step of the way there was somebody to guide them. And that's what I'm excited about this network, because we've been doing this for 20 years, up lots of different contacts, lots of different professionals, lots of people who are on board. They will be doing monthly webinars as well. So what's quite exciting is we're looking to work with about 20 or so families initially, and those families what we'll do, it will tailor make in terms of the professionals that we speak, based on the things that your children are interested. So for example, I was talking to a parent whose child is interested in interior decorating, so we've got lots of links to people who are in interior decorating or got their own businesses and stuff. So we would actually structure the webinars around what people are interested in. So each week we would look at the different interests and connect them with professionals, and those professionals and other professionals will come where we have a meeting all together at our quarter. The parents, the young person, the professionals, the businesses can actually meet together. We'll also, again, really excited. We're also having a weekly education question and answer session. So if parents have any questions that they want to ask, and students have any questions that they want to ask, we'll get an expert to actually answer the question. What I'm particularly excited about in terms of the network is that even the high achievers in this network, professionals, understand the importance of having a balanced life, and that is really at the heart of where we're what really drives us. We want you to all do well. We want the children to do well, but we want them to have fun. We want you to live along the journey, and we want to help parents to understand how to help their children to live a good, well-rounded life. And also, what's unique about us is we support children in and young people in the areas that they're interested in. So, for example, if your child is interested in beauty, we will connect them with people in the beauty industry. The core thing about and the way we operate is that we want your children, and we want parents to understand that your child doesn't have to just go in and just be a worker bee, quote unquote. They can go for senior position. Yes, they may have to start at a certain point, but they should be aiming to think, oh, one day I want to be a director, one day I want to be a senior manager. And so we connect them with directors and senior managers. We took a group of students to the Royal Albert Hall. It was amazing. We spent the day with him, we interviewed him. He showed us, that was a former CEO, he showed us all around the Royal Albert Hall. We're walking for hours, literally. And that was the students that were interested in performing arts. Last night was out with a group of students who are interested in beauty, and just interested in meeting professional ladies. They were at Clinique. Can you imagine students at Clinique interviewing people, even interviewing the PR? I mean, and that gets me excited. So people are like, why do you do these webinars and why do you do this? Because I know the network we have. I know how we can help children and parents move their children with ease, with a systematic and structured program from A to Z. We know that the people that we are connected to, like Shanta and Dami, just want to help and want to give more information and give back in terms of what they have actually learned as well. So that's some of the key things. So I talked about the monthly support, the weekly question and answers. We've talked, one of the things as well that's really exciting is that we will be having our yearly back, and we will be where we will recognize, look, we are part of this network group, the SYF Connect dynamic Future Leaders Network. If you're part of this network, we will recognize at the end of the year what your children have actually done, what they've actually achieved. They'll get awards, be recognized for it. Again, it's just a nice dinner. And with that event as well, we will bring professionals, we'll invite professionals and businesses and companies to the dinner. So we're connecting the professionals on a level, and the children on a level where they will always be connected to professionals, so they can see the end goal that will help to motivate them more. We're connecting them that they can have a clear understanding of their industry from a very, very young age. And I think I've always suggested that it's important to start young. My 6-year-old I mentioned said he wanted to be a doctor, and we got him to sit down and find out what you need to do to be a doctor. He did the research, because everybody's on the internet these days. He did the research and he found pictures and he put up on, and every year we get the boys to put their vision board up. And I was talking, it was in a group, and I was saying, I've never had a problem, not once had a problem with my eldest son doing his homework. In fact, to do my homework, he's 11 and he comes home, he has his breaks, and he will sit down, and he goes to grammar, so their workload is massive, but he will do it himself. It's intrinsic. Independent learning is just intrinsic because of the vision boarding, because of the action planning, because of Dami said he always has the target of what he actually wants to achieve. But he enjoys life. He plays hockey night and day. So it is possible. And I really just want to be with a group of like-minded, committed parents who want to help their children but want to enjoy meeting other people and enjoy actually being together. We also got a video vault where we're putting different videos from different people of African and Caribbean heritage, but not only, we got a mixture of cultures who are talking about what their work is like and what they do at work. And so that that vault, you can dip into any time that you want to actually get and find information. And we're drip feeding it. So we're putting the information there slowly. It's not to necessarily overwhelm everyone. There are that will tap into other events. We go sometimes and we exhibit at other people's career events. We will put that information out to you when there's career events. This is really where our focus is at for the SYF Connect moving forward, because we know that by 2035 a lot of the jobs that we have now won't be existing anymore. So we understand that it's important for our children and our young people to be digitally minded. Unfortunately, when you say blog to some parents, they're like, what? And I know, Sean, with our online magazine that we have, so you published on the online magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you published. Sorry. Yeah. So I'll get you to speak about that in a minute, actually. So you publish on the online magazine, and we get young people in our network to actually publish and do and do different things. So we get so many different opportunities, and so I'm excited, and I'm hoping, like I said, by giving you some really wonderful tips, we give you some offers in terms of joining our network, because we don't think it's really fair just it being our small group of people doing well. We want everybody we know to do well. So we'd like to encourage you to join our network. There is a yearly fee for the network. I'm going to give you a link in a minute. You can have a look at it. It works out to be less than £10 per month for the yearly fee. If you do join up on the yearly fee, you get an action planning session, which we were talking about, getting the plans in place for your children. So we get, if you're already in one of our other programs, we'll double your action planning sessions, and that will be useful if you have lots of different children. It's one fee for all of the children. So you won't have to pay for them individually. You'll also, in terms of the yearly fee, we're doing in the summer, we're doing a blog and digital business online. So we're helping to show you how to help your children to, and they themselves will do the course, in fact, how to start their businesses online. But they will all have businesses that they will be either getting money through advertising, and we'll share like different ideas, and we will encourage them to do well academically, because we'll encourage them to publish articles on some of our websites that we have in terms of their area that they are interested in. So if they're interested in dance and football, when they interview the footballers who are that in the area that they want to go into, that if they like writing, they like poetry, we'll actually get them to publish that. So I think those are the key things. I think one of the other bonus is that the book that I've written, Paramount Parenting, you'll get a downloadable copy of that when we actually publish it. So all in all, I think it's certainly an amazing offer. In terms of the joining, well, I think it's always important to encourage people to come on board very quickly. We want to start do it next week, actually start our education in terms of our education guidance. So we'll start that next week. We'll meet as a group online and find out what your children are interested in, so that we can start getting some of the professionals on board that are suited for your children. We've already got people in banking lined up. We've already got footballers who published their books. So some footballer, I can't say his name, he's published his book recently. He's actually going to come and be on one of the webinars. We've got lawyers. We've got lots of people that's interested. So now, Shante, just like I'm just going to put up the link that people can actually to join. And like we said, we're looking for 20 also families to work with from now till the end of the year. So I'm really hoping that you guys will certainly join us. Can you just say, Shante, in terms of what kind of articles you published online, how that felt, and also in terms of any benefits that you've seen in terms of being a part of a network in a round of what we've done in ACES, and actually, yeah, anything we've done.
So I think I've written a few articles now for ACES. I've lost track of exactly how many. I think the first one I wrote was sort of a guide to starting university, like a first year's guide to starting university, which I actually found really enjoyable to write. It was when you're sort of writing about your experiences, it's nice to be able to write about your own experiences. So I found that quite fun to do, which is fun because I am generally I think I've said before, more of a numbers person, but did enjoy writing the article, and it was nice to sort of have it online. And then I think another one I did was when I first started when I was midway through my year abroad, because I spent a year living, studying and working at the same time in France as part of my degree. And I just sort of got a job on the side out there as well. And I did a sort of guide for a sort of mini blog about my year abroad. And it's nice to write about your experiences and sort of share them, and know that sort of the advice you give can be helpful, because I feel like there's a lot of things I wish I'd known before I went out to France and like moved to a different country. I know it's not that far away, but regardless, it's nice to sort of be able to share your experiences. And I imagine, because I know that I've read lots of informative articles from other people, so it's just nice to sort of share and read other people's experiences, who are sort of real life experiences. If they've been through it, they're telling you sort of unfiltered like truth about how they feel and things like that, because there's lots of ways people can relate to each other, but then at the same time you can learn something and think about something in a different way and be like, oh yeah, it's quite insightful. So it's always good to sort of just share. And I feel like that's a common theme of the SYF network, is sort of sharing experiences, working with other people. And it's so invaluable. Like, you can never learn too much from another person. And I think we probably are guilty of not listening to each other as much as we could do. So it is good to sort of just really focus on helping each other out, sharing. And yeah, I just think that that's such a great way of doing so, like sharing experiences and like into just connecting into with different generations. I think there's a word for that, but yeah, just sort of connecting with different people. And I think that's what the network is going to offer, and it'll just really be invaluable.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, actually, Shante, for even pointing out that the different age groups will be actually communicating with each other. And like I said, even from primary, I think if primary students can meet, secondary students can meet, graduates, it'll just be phenomenal, like-minded and ambitious, and really what I think it is new, it is dynamic. There is nothing like that trying to focus on raising champions, basically, and focus on getting them, from A to Z, raising those champions and getting them to enjoy themselves and getting them to develop their skills as well. Certainly, that's great. Thank you, Shante. And then Dami, just to kind of round off yourself, in terms of what can you see from your experience would be like the key benefits of the network?
For me, I would just say just making the most of everything that ACES had to provide. That was the key for me. So in terms of the action plan, like Donya said, those things at first seem quite simple, but the effect of doing that and doing it properly is invaluable. So I would say, yeah, just anything ACES throws at you, definitely take it on board. Definitely use it to its full potential, as I did. So in terms of going on these trips, asking the right questions, because it's quite easy to meet these people and just consume what they say, but not be proactive and not ask the right questions and not make the most of it. So I would say, yeah, if you're joining, if you're getting on board, make the most of everything that ACES has to offer, because it is invaluable.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much for that, Dami. And just before we finish, are there any questions? If anyone has any questions, that's parents have any questions, we've got about 2 more minutes. You can put your questions in the chat. So I'm hoping that I think some people might be watching via YouTube, but if you have any questions, you can just state it here. So if you have any questions at all, please just any questions that you have. And in terms of the bonuses, we have put a time limit on them. You being able to get them, it's 24 hours. And that is primarily because we want to start our program. We want to know who's actually on board. And so that will help us in terms of our time frames, people getting on board. Quite importantly, we really want to thank you for coming along. We want to thank you for being on the webinar with us. We hope that you got a great deal out of the webinar. Really want to say thank you to Dami, thank you to Shantae for coming along and giving up your time, because I know you guys are quite busy doing different accounting exams and things like that. Thank you for giving up your time to come on board, and thank you always for giving up your time to come into our networking and our sessions in our schools. Dami, last word on the importance of the being getting ahead in the digital age. Any last words?
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, the jobs that we have available to us now won't be the same jobs we'll have in 2035, and that in itself is a reason to get ahead in the digital age. I think people always need to think forward and be resourceful. And again, like Donya said, you don't want to be in a position where the skills which you've garnered now are effectively redundant come the next 18 years. So for me, that's always been my biggest motivation. Generally, I have a passion for technology, so that's where I draw my own motivation from. But I guess as Donya said, come that time, you definitely want to be in a position where you can adapt, and adapting is key.
Fabulous. Thank you, Dami. And how about you, Shantae, the digital age?
It's definitely a sort of imperative to know your way around the way that things are moving. If that makes sense, sort of know the direction in which things are moving, so you don't end up lagging behind, because things are moving so fast now. You really do want to keep up with it and keep ahead. And even if that sort of means like learning, going out of your way to sort of learn about like different programs that your company's using, things like that, how that might affect you, how you can sort of not get ahead of it, but just make sure that it's not going to leave you behind. I'd say just do like everything you can to sort of keep up to date.
Okay, all right, fab. And sorry, there's one last minute question that's actually come through. It's for a young lady who's going to go to university, and she wanted to know from Dami and Shantae, just very briefly, with the work piling up, how can she break it down what's the best approach for her to break down work so that she's able to cope with it when she goes to university?
Should I go? I stick to sort of timetables. I sort of plan out my time. I've always got like a calendar stuck up on my wall, and I've got a diary calendar as well. And I sort of take stock of where the exams are, make sure that they're in there big red, so you know where they are falling. And then that sort of enables you to prioritize. You want to set a goal of, okay, I want to be here sort of 10 days before the exam, and just set yourself these guidelines. Obviously sometimes you can't stick to it 100%, but if you've just sort of got that, it sort of makes it a bit less daunting, and you know what you've got to get through in that day. Because I used to find that I just sort of be like, okay, I'm going to revise now, sit down, be like, okay, what am I going to revise? Spend time thinking about, oh, should I do maths? Should I do English? Whereas if I'd planned in advance that I need to have written out all of my notes X number of days before the exam, I knew that when I sat down, that was what I was going to be doing. And I feel like I saved so much more time when I started doing that, because a lot of the time that I used to spend sitting there thinking, oh, maybe I should do these questions, or maybe I'll do the notes first, maybe I'll do the practice paper, I sort of wasted time deciding how I was going to revise instead of just spending a bit of time planning everything out and then getting on with it. And I feel like it's sort of when you can see the chunks that you've got to do, like break it down into bite-sized chunks really, as opposed to becoming overwhelmed with everything that you've got to do.
Fabulous, Shante. Thank you. And Dami?
I guess the one thing I'd say is, in terms of the pile up of work going into university, I think one thing I would say students need to realize is that when coming from GCSEs and A levels, you're actually studying a whole lot more different subjects than you are at university. You're effectively studying the one subject that's broken up into several modules, whereas in GCSE you're studying 10 or 12 very different subjects. And given that, I think the only real difference is when you're in GCSE, when you're in A levels, you have a timetable assigned to you by the school or by the college, which tells you at this time you're going to do French and at this time you're going to do geography. Whereas in university, apart from your lectures and your seminars, you've got a whole lot more free time. So rather than it being a case of, a ton of work, it's more a case of how you organize yourself and time management. And as Shante said, breaking that work into blocks of work and, identifying when the exams are and prioritizing accordingly. So, and for me, I guess it would be a combination of the two. So knowing which modules you're strong at and how much time you should really be dedicating to that, and also knowing when the exams are. So if there's something that's you're really strong at and the exam is the last exam you're going to do, then I would say you probably don't want to spend as much attention to that as you would do on an exam that's a month away rather than being eight weeks away. So I'd say key things there is definitely break it down, definitely identify the fact that you do have a lot of time. It's just a case of organizing your time properly. And as Chantal correctly said, a lot of people do spend a lot of time saying, actually, what should I study? Should I do maths? Should I do this module? Should I do that module? And before you know it, like an hour and a half has gone by, you haven't done anything. You're just deliberating. Whereas if you've got a plan in motion and it's just a case of executing, then a lot of your time is spent actually revising and studying rather than deliberating. So yeah, it's just a case of time management and getting yourself as organized as possible.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Dami. So we are going to invite you and Shante back when we have our members only meetings with our professionals
Okay.
in the network. So we'll have webinars that are members only. What's your profession, Dami, that you do? What work do you do?
So I'm a financial consultant, and in a nutshell, my role is to identify investment processes in a front office bank and essentially try and figure out a way to streamline those processes. Now, we have a software at the company that I work for called Black Mountain Systems, and we basically use that software to streamline, trade order management, portfolio management, and research management.
Fabulous. Did it take you years to find your job when you left university, or no?
I
Okay.
graduated in July and I found a graduate role in September. However, there was a lot of applications. Well, I started applying for roles the September previously. So September 2014, I started applying for roles and I finally got a role September 2015.
Awesome, because that is awesome. So obviously you can share some tips with us in our network how to get a job swiftly. Great. And you, Shante, what do you do? And did it take you a long time to get a role?
So I am a finance analyst, but I work for a fashion company. So a lot of my job involves analysing sales and sort of looking at ways to maximise sales. I actually, after I graduated, I took summer off, and then I went back to a job that I had worked at before for a few months. So I didn't actually start my grad job until January. But so I've been in it about four months now. But yeah.
Fabulous. So it didn't necessarily take you a long time to find a job either, because obviously there's people out there who are not, still haven't found jobs from graduating. So your final word of encouragement to any young person who's actually stayed up and listening, and the final word to the parents who've actually have stayed till the end. Any final word for them, Shante?
Final words would be flexible in, or let your child learn how it is they revise. and because it does take a bit of time to figure out. For any students, like, plan your revision. It really, really saves time. Like, don't end up wasting, like we said, the time sitting there thinking, what should I revise now? So plan your revision, sort of do it in, don't get overwhelmed, do it in bite-sized chunks, like break everything down into bite-sized chunks, and use the people that are around you. Like, lecturers are on teachers. They're not going to get angry at you for asking a question, because that is why they're there. And it is sometimes scary to ask a question because you think, oh, is this a really stupid question? But at the end of the day, even if you ask it and it is, or you think it's a stupid question, it's not, but you'll find out what the answer is. And then that's much better than sitting there for a week thinking, oh, but I really don't know how to do this, but I don't want to ask this question. So yeah, ask questions, learn how you revise, and break things down into bite-sized chunks.
Fabulous, thank you. And Dami, your final point or encouragement to parents and their children?
I guess my final point would be an acronym, which is TPE, which is Target, Plan, Execute. So, set your targets, plan according to your targets, and just execute against that. It's as simple as that.
Thank you so much. And to everyone who's come on board, thank you. Thank you, Shante. Thank you, Dami. Thank you, parents. Thank you, Grace, for your lovely messages. And anyone else who's still online, if you've got a message for Anathang and Dami, please do put them up in the chat as well. I'm really excited. My time, I've just got busier. But I'm really delighted that I will be able to work with the groups of parents to actually help their children to, like I said, get them from A to Z, and you'll be able to see me at most of these events. I'm really excited about that. I'm excited that I'll be able to work more personally with parents, and more directly with parents, more directly with a group of young people. I'm working with, I think, about I said wanted to work with 20, about 5 young people and their parents, and I am so super excited for them. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on board. Have a wonderful night, and good night to you all.